Hey there, Variety here. Welcome to today's video in which we're going to be doing an in-depth tank guide for the Paladin class for Tarisland. One of the biggest issues I had with this guide is that it's very simple to do a straightforward cookie cutter build. So for example, I could give you a template and tell you to adapt it, right? Pretty easy, but anybody that's played the tank for a couple hours could put together a decent talent tree. So the biggest problem I ran into was, how do you give people an in-depth guide when things keep changing? So the conclusion I came up with is that I'm going to show you my build based upon a piece of content that I did, specifically the challenge dragon that we successfully cleared yesterday for Global First. So if we have up the raid window, we can have a look at that. So everything that I show you in today's video is going to be based around what I did in the dragon, what defenses I took. So I'm going to show you two different talent trees, one that I use in other content. I'm going to show you the inscription tree, and I'm going to talk about the emblems, kind of which ones work, which ones don't. And I'm going to talk about a bunch of other tidbits of information, such as, healer's thoughts between cooldown and omni, and other little things to help you figure out the class. It's very clear to understand that this particular video will be based around the omni build, and it'll be based around a build that I built for myself without guide or instructions from other people. I understand that some people believe that cooldown is best, and you could be absolutely right, and as we go towards 110 gear, I will create a cooldown guide, but today's guide will be based on omni and what I used in the challenge dragon fight. Okay, so let's get to it. Okay, so let's talk about the abilities. As this is an in-depth Paladin tank guide, you should already have a basic understanding of how these work. Let's open up the attribute page. So, a very crucial thing when it comes to the Paladin, and something my raid team doesn't seem to understand, is that when I'm not hitting the boss, I'm a wet noodle. I need to hit the boss to keep my defenses up. So when you're running the boss around and he's swiping you in the back, you're very weak. This is very apparent against the merfolk when you're running through the waves, and when you're micro stutter stepping the challenge dragon around the arena. So let's have a look. So first up, you have Holy Hammer. Keep in mind that the effects you'll see here go along with the first build that I will show you in a moment. So I'm going to use it. Look at my glancing, 46, 69%. So keeping the hammer up is actually crucial, and if you're cutting too much without hitting the boss with your hammer, you are significantly weaker. Holy Shield Bash. Holy Shield Bash raises your defense. Watch what happens when I use it. Goes up 400 defense, plus it gives me damage reduction. It also gives you energy back if you hit AoE mobs. But I use it on single target because of a couple of reasons. Primarily it's defense, but also its secondary effect, which I'll talk about in a moment. Next up is the shield. Everybody should know what the shield does. It's based on, effects from your SAs and your maximum HP. So the more max HP you have, the better. You'll see that it's lit up. The reason it's lit up is because my class energy is full, right? So when you glance, when you use Holy Shield Bash on 3+ enemies, you'll get energy. And when the energy is full, you will get to use your Flying Shield. Watch what happens to my glancing when I throw my Flying Shield. See, I went up to 77%? Now I hit up the hammer, I go to 100%. So when you combine your class ability along with your Holy Hammer, pretty much no matter how much glancing you have, you're going to go straight up to 100%. So it's really important to have this shield effect up. So next up, you have Holy Fire. Holy Fire is basically your AoE taunt that you're going to be using to pull mobs. It's really cool, really effective. I really wish I could use it a little bit more, but I don't have the cooldown for it because this particular build is based upon omni. You can combine Holy Fire with Flying Shield to hit multiple targets if you have the right build, kind of like this. It only hit one because I don't have the correct talent. Okay, so now let's talk about Holy Regen. Holy Regen is your healer button. As you get more HP, as you can notice now I have 63,000 HP, but when I have buffs like raid buffs and stuff like that, I actually go above 70. And this heal is only going to heal me about 20,000. 3,000, 23,000. So 26,000 heal when I have 70,000 plus HP. It's not a, heal me to full HP button. It's more a top me up kind of button. And when you use it, depending on your talents, the way I use it is it makes it so you have 10% more HP, and it allows you to get healed. Sorry, I think it's 9% more HP, but you also get healed better by your healer. It doesn't apply to you, but your healer can heal you better. So it's more of a, top me up, help me healer rather than a, self-save ability. Here is your Arden's Guardian. So your Arden's Guardian is your bread and butter on the Paladin. The Paladin definitely has some huge downsides. However, the Arden's Guardian makes up for a lot of it. So what the Arden's Guardian does is it gives you damage reduction, right? And physical defense. See the timer here? Watch what happens when I use Holy Shield Bash. See how the timer went up? When you're using Holy Shield Bash while your ability is active, if you have the correct talent, you can actually make it last a little bit longer. Furthermore, you would have just saw that Arden's Guardian cut its cooldown by, I think it's 40 seconds. The reason it did this is because I didn't die. So with the talents assigned, which I'll show you in a moment, basically it has a cheat death mechanic where it'll stop you from dying one time while it's up. So you can cheese a lot of mechanics, and I was definitely cheesing stuff in the dragon with it. But if you don't die, the cooldown is really low. If you're looking really closely here, you'll notice that every time I use the Holy Shield Bash, not only does it extend how long it lasts, but the talent will also make it so the cooldown lowers every time I use the Holy Shield Bash. So combining the 40 seconds that you get back, plus the constant Holy Shield Bash that you're using, you'll notice that the cooldown on the Arden's Guardian is coming back extremely fast, right? So Holy Shield Bash goes with Arden's Guardian, and your Flying Shield goes with your Holy Regen. Use your Holy Regen, my HP goes up. Now watch what happens when I hit with the shield. See how the cooldown went down? So you're basically using, this is your defensive. Defensive lowers cooldown. Shield lowers cooldown. And you're lowering these cooldowns. Okay, so now let's use the Inscribed Stone. So what I'm going to use is I'm going to use the Inscribed Stone after I've used the shield, right? What it does is every time I use one of these two abilities, it resets the Flying Shield, right? So the Flying Shield has its effect again, so the Glancing's going to go up. So I'm going to use the Inscribe skill after the shield. Then I'm going to use Hammer, Shield, Shield Bash, Shield, Hammer, Shield. Watch what happens. Notice my shield HP and all that healing that happened? It's basically an ultimate defensive ability that you can hold on to and use it when you need it and when the healers are under the pump. I had to use this very effectively in the dragon. Just gets look at it. Man, the dragon challenge is something else, to say the least. Alright, so we've had a look at the abilities. I just want to cover the ultimate abilities a little bit. I don't mean to harp on TV here. I don't want to come across as that type of person. But I've seen a lot of tanks that don't change their ultimate abilities, and it's really frustrating. In Tarisland, it doesn't, like, your stats and how good you are matters, of course, but if you're not using your ultimate abilities correctly, you are hurting yourself, like, horrendously. So, like, many fights will require dash. The Paladin can't move very fast. It's quite immobile, so dash is extremely important. Earth Shattering, it allows you to jump, right? So this is good as well. Not used as often, but it's good. Here you have your single target and your AoE taunts. It's really important that you understand the difference here, because the single target, you can do it every 14.6 seconds, which you need for most boss fights, especially the dragon, because you need to keep taunting back and forward. And then you have the AoE one, which is only dependent on some fights, right? Like, if you don't need it in a fight, you would take another ultimate. You don't just take it to hold on to it. Here you have the Interrupt, obviously something that's important, and the Stun. So I want to give a real honorary mention to the Stun. I know people probably think, hey, no, it's just a stun, but look what it does. See that big AoE circle? You can use this to stun many mobs in the game. So for example, one of the bosses in one of the dungeons, it summons 2 adds that run towards the ice pillar. If you stand right between the adds as it comes out, you can drop the stun on the adds and stun them instantly and allow the DPS to kill it instantly rather than chase after them. This makes a big difference. If there's other things you can do, for example, too, like you can run into a big mob pack, use your AoE shield with your Holy Fire and Flying Shield, use your Arden's Guardian to make sure you don't die, and then stun them. Because they're mobs, you can stun them rather than interrupt them, so you can stop them doing damage and stop them from using their abilities. So, like, it is crucial that you change your ultimates, because they will completely change your fight. I have abused, well, maybe abused is the right word, but I've used the stun in so many different ways that have made life so much easier. I've stunned ads that chase healers, and if they get to them, they'll die. I've stunned ads to stop the DPS having to run after them. I've stunned ads that will heal the bosses, and instead of, you know, them getting to the boss and successfully healing them, I've actually been able to stop them and clear challenge raids. The stun is very, very important. You should really think about when you can use it. Okay, so let's move on to the talent portion of the video. Okay, so let's talk talent. So here I'm going to show you 2 different talent builds in general. I'm going to put more information on the spreadsheet over the next 24 hours, and I'm going to describe to you why I take certain talents and why I don't. I really need to stress the fact, I will show you the talents so you can copy them if you want, but I really need to stress the fact that you will not fully understand this class unless you go to the spreadsheet below the video and read the descriptions. I will write out why some are bad, why some are bait, how some are used. It's really important that you understand all of this key information with the talents, otherwise you're never going to excel. You may beat elite content if you don't know all this in-depth information, it's true, but your day 1 challenge content, you need to understand what you're doing. Okay, so this particular build, the reason I'm going to show this is because this is the one I used against the dragon, and this is probably the most relevant one that people are going to understand. So I'm going to rattle through this pretty quickly. Basically, more stamina, more defense, great. This makes it so when I use my holy hammer, I got more glancing. You saw before how I boosted like 20% when I use it. This is why. This, a bit more glancing. Glancing is always nice. This heal, it makes it so when I use my heal, I am more HP and allows me to get healed easier. This is good because you get the heal so often and the heal's kind of small. So you're more helping the healers heal you. More shielding, great. Down the left tree, it's basically damage reduction, and this skill here is what allows me to use Ardent Guardian so often because it's extending it and lowering the cooldown. Very important if you're running this build. This here is also important because it boosts it by 20%, which is kind of negligible because it's still low, but it reduces it by 20%, so I can keep using it here. Down here, this is your probably the most important talent. Absolutely always have this. No matter what build you're running, you must have this talent. Down here, this is the Ardent Guardian because I was using Cheat Death. You require all these points. Heart of Fire is really strong, but it only has a % chance to proc, so I can't control it. And if it doesn't proc when I need it, or procs when I don't need it, it's a completely worthless talent, so I move them elsewhere for talents that I can control. So feel free to copy that if you wish, but as I mentioned, please do look at the spreadsheet for a full explanation as to what's going on. Okay, so this build revolves around using the Holy Sword instead of using the Shield Bash. So you're no longer lowering the cooldown of Ardent Guardian. The main difference is that when you use it, you have a 9% chance to dodge against the target that you're against. This can be pretty powerful because if you open up your talents and you scroll down to here, you have a 10% dodge chance. And once we get into the 110 gear, I could potentially use empowers and stuff like that to boost my dodge even higher. I could probably get 30 plus dodge rate, but the problem with dodge rate is that, you know, even if your dodge is 30%, it's kind of like glancing. If it's low and you don't dodge 2 attacks in a row, you just die, right? And burst damage is the biggest issue in this game. Healers don't have mana bars, so healers don't have issues with healing. Healers only have issues with burst. So you want to lower the burst, and, you know, having your main mechanic, which would be dodge in this build, fail you a couple times in a row is how you're going to get bursted. In saying that, though, the Holy Sword build definitely does more damage and more healing than the counterpart, the Shield Bash. The Shield Bash is definitely used more. It's like it's been designed for AoE and the Arden, so you can use Cheat Death, but the Cheat Death and the extra damage reduction and defense against bosses is just too crucial. It's too unreliable to rely on dodge to dodge the Dragon's Claws, for example. Like, I need to be clear here, like, even with 70,000 HP, the Dragon, if I don't have a defensive up, the Dragon will auto-attack me for 70,000 of my HP, just gone. 100-0, no crit, no combo, nothing, just boom, dead. Like, you always need to have defensives up, and trying to do that with a dodge, seems a little unreliable to me. Alright, so let's have a look at the talents. So this is the one that I use in Arcane sometimes. So as I mentioned, it does do a lot more damage. Single target damage against a boss, it's probably 2, 3, maybe even times higher, and it could potentially be even better with a cooldown build, which I will cover in another video. But basically the difference here is I'm using the sword, I'm using the AoE flying shield, so when you use your Holy Fire combined with your shield, you hit multiple targets, because I use it in Arcane. We go down the middle instead of the left. Here, the base cooldown of Holy Sword is reduced by 2 seconds, and it makes your next flying shield 20% more stronger. It doesn't work with AoE shield, unfortunately, because that would make you a guard. But hey, it makes your shield a little bit stronger. Shield stronger like before. The main difference here is that your Holy Sword will do more damage and heal you. So, for example, watch what happens with the heal. 1200. Now, you'll notice I'm healing about 1000 whenever I'm using the hammers. That's because of the Holy Sword. But you're probably thinking, you know, that's cool heal, but healing 1000 at a time when I'm getting swiped 70,000 of the boss? Negligible. The healer, when they touch me, my HP goes up like 20,000, 30,000, 50,000, and I'm using all my cooldown reduction, sorry, not cooldown reduction, my damage reduction to block that stuff, and here, this build heals 1,000 at a time? Like, that's not really helpful. And I'm sure some people will say, hey, you can dodge. Okay, but what if you don't? What if you don't dodge? What if you don't dodge twice in a row? You're dead, right? You're relying on a 30% chance to reliably dodge for, what is it, a 6-minute fight? It's not happening. Maybe later when you have higher gear and you can adapt stuff with the higher emblems and stuff like that. But right now, don't use it in challenge rates. Please don't use it in challenge rates. In Arcanes and Elites, okay, sure, whatever. It does more damage, it's fine, right? Cool. But don't use it in challenge rates, please. I'm begging you. Okay, so these are the stats that I'm currently running. So this is pretty much what I was running in Dragon. Now, I want to be clear here when I say this. I have not paid to win. I have spent a total of $15 on Tarisland, and I have completed all the challenge content. It was a struggle, believe me, it was, but we did it. And if I can do it, you can do it too. So I don't have any T3 emblem, sorry, I always say emblems, empowers, or gems. I don't have T4 either. Literally all my stuff is T2 or worse, and I still struggled my way through it. So I don't have all those extra stats that you might see from another guide because I didn't put money into the game. It's just the truth of it, right? Can't get around it. So these stats are basically what you can get if you haven't spent anything on the game, which is important. So the glancing will be at about 70% when you're in combat. The resonance is really important. I will talk about the resonance a little bit more in the Inscription part of the video, which will come next. The omni. So the omni is the core of this build. So the omni gives you damage reduction. As you can see here, it's 12.9%. So at all times, I'm taking 12.9% less damage, right? Then down here, we have glancing effects. So it's 30 plus 5%. So here we go. This is good. And then down here, you can see your damage immunity, right? So this is the omni. This omni is giving me this damage immunity. Okay, so now that I've talked about the stats here, let's look at the talents, okay? So this is the cooldown portion. I can get level 1 in cooldown and level 2 in on me if I want. I can do that. I've done that. But unfortunately, I had to sacrifice some stuff that I needed for the dragon, right? There was just some, like, my emblems just weren't quite good enough. I didn't roll well enough to be able to do it the right way. But I absolutely could have gotten level 1 in cooldown and level 2 here. So people that are, you know, probably thinking, hey, you're level 1 or level 2 in cooldown. I could have done that even with the omni. Now, I understand that many people have been convinced that omni isn't good. I don't fully understand where that's coming from, and I'd like to tell you that it's nonsense. Just as nonsense as the fact is you must pay to win the challenge raids, because here I am, proof that that is untrue. Okay, so now that I've had a look at the stats, let's look at the core omni build and why I built it this way. Okay, so this one's going to require some info from each page. I apologize if this bit is a little bit confusing. Okay, so you may notice that I've pushed everything into omni, right? So putting aside the essays, you should be able to read them yourself, so I don't think I need to go into them. But the omni, I push as much omni as possible, which is kind of weird, right? Why would you push omni when I could get 1 cooldown? It's a valid question when you think about it. Because when I had a bit of cooldown, along with the omni, I felt much more powerful. I could throw more shields, I could get more defense. It felt really good to play it. So why did I go into omni? This is why. So let's open up the inscribe tree. Please do not worry about the inscribed tree at this point. I will cover the inscribed tree at the next point in the video. For now, the only thing I want you to pay attention to is Lewin's Wish. So what Lewin's Wish does, this one is weaker. I have a better one, I believe. Where is it? Here we go. So with each emblem skill level +1, you get an extra 6%. See how this one says 72% on me and this one says 66? So ideally you'd want +1s to make it stronger. So what's happening is when you drink a potion, it will give you 66% of the omni. That's all I'm wearing right now. Now, people have tried using this and expected to get a bunch of omni when they ran a cooldown build. That's not how it works. But you may be catching on to the fact now, 66% of your omni, guess what your omni does? It gives you damage immunity. So guess what happens when I drink a potion? Watch this. 19.3% damage immunity. Not only this, but this one procs for 5 seconds too. So I can use the hammer and I can reduce the damage even further. So I'm running an extra, what, 1.5% here. Plus I think I got an extra like 7% here. So I'm running, what, 8.5% damage reduction, and I can proc that at any time I use a potion. You can either do this with the burst potion when you're taking a lot of damage, or every time you use a healing potion. Believe me, as a tank in a challenge raid, you're going to be using a lot of healing potions. And the healing potion is good because generally what will happen in a challenge raid is, as I mentioned earlier, the biggest weakness to a healer is burst. Not all of them, and some of them have mitigation, right, to prevent the burst. Their entire purpose is to prevent you getting bursted with their mitigation. You can do it yourself. So let's say you get swiped for 70% of your HP. You would use a healing potion. It would heal you back up, so I don't know, 60, 70%. But you're still within burst range. But you just raised your omni basically up to 20% damage reduction. You're not going to drop. And if you have the right emblem, which I'll show you in the inscription tree in the next portion, you'll get even stronger when your HP is lower. This will make it much less likely to get burst. I can't be any more clear when I say that the challenge raid mechanics, the bosses will literally just one-shot you from 100 to 0. And there's nothing you can do about it. Because you can't have your defensives up all the time and it's just one auto attack and you're gone. It's actually really frustrating and a really hard tank check. Okay, so as we just talked about, the core of this build is using Lewin's Wish along with a burst potion or a healing potion to boost your omni to give you up to 10 seconds every 60 seconds of damage reduction. That is why I run this build. When I get better gear and I get T3, T4 empowers and stuff like that, I'm pretty sure I can push my omni probably to maybe even 20%, right? Now, think about it. If I have a Lewin's Wish that gives me 88% with 4 emblems and I have 20%, what's that? An extra 16, 17%? So I would go up to, what, nearly 40% damage reduction. Damage immunity just by using a potion, right? And then everything else on top? That's insane. I could cheese mechanics. I can use cheat death. That's why I run the omni build, because I like using damage reduction and cheesing builds. Okay, so now that you understand the core of the omni build and why I ran it, let's have a look at the inscription tree. Okay, so you're going to notice here that I have some leftover inscribed stone energy. I've done that because I want you to see what I was running for the dragon. Now, this isn't ideal because, as I mentioned earlier, I haven't put money into the game, so I can't keep rolling emblems. Even though I've made myself hundreds of emblems through crafting, I still can't get what I want. It's actually incredibly frustrating. So all you can do is work with what you've got, right? That's really all you can do. So basically what I did is I got level 3 core. The reason I did this is because I have a couple of essays. So let's open up the attribute page. For example, Holy Hammer, glancing level plus 24. Additionally, 9% chance stackable to increase the echo recharge rate. So the echo, you know, that thing that procs this thing here at 15 charges, because that's procking so fast now, when it procs, it lasts, I think it's like 8 or 9 seconds when this is level 3, and it gives me an extra glancing effect by 9%. So it's a percent chance, it's true, because, you know, this doesn't stack up ultra fast, but to a point, it's kind of controllable, and it happens quite often. That's why I've gone level 3 in the core. Of course, I've gone full glancing across the board, and I've put a lot into resonance, which I'll explain in a moment. I've gone full omni down the right. If I go down the left and get cooldown, I could get level 1 in cooldown, but I lost too many points for the dragon to do that. So Here we have Steelborn. So let's explain this one. So apparently this is the wrong description. So it's actually when you have one enemy close by within 10 meters, you get damage reduction. And you take damage reduction from the next 2 attacks. So this is actually a very strong stone. And I have a stronger version of it. Unfortunately, though, I desperately needed upper right here. So I had to settle for a Steelborn that just wasn't as good. This was one of my major issues. I couldn't roll an upper left and upper right. So it really, really sucked. Man, rolling emblems in this game has really sucked. I can't say it any other way. So here I have upper left and upper right. I use a tribal ode here because I like the main attribute and the stamina increase. It's not, you know, huge, but it's nice. And combined with that, I got upper left and upper right. As you can see, I have strength and stamina, kind of meh. But I needed upper left, upper right. You should have upper left, upper right here. That should be your main priority. As you can see, I've put maximum points into glancing. I've gone up the right-hand side to get the specialization and to get the omni, as omni is my build. Now let's go up towards the middle. So Lewin's Wish, I used Lewin's Wish, which is a little bit weaker here for the potion, because I wanted the upper and I wanted the right. This makes the specialization effect more stronger. So this is glancing percent, right? So if I open this back up, and we go down to here, so when you glance, right, remember how there's a 70% chance of me actually glancing? The glancing effect is how much you will glance. So think about it as block. Like, I successfully blocked your attack, but how much damage did you reduce from it? That's what glancing effect is, right? So having more glancing effect is very crucial. That's why I've boosted this here and put a couple of points into it. I also did it because upper right and then lower left here gave me 100% resonance. So resonance, what it does is it gives me the Inscribe Stone skill. I think I used this 4 times throughout the fight. It was crucial. It was basically another huge defensive set I could use when the healers were distracted with other mechanics. I used Intertwined Fates. Now, I know for a fact that I died multiple times because I used this. Now, I used this because I wanted the resonance and the omni, right? It was crucial for my build. But this is not what I should be using, right? The one that I want to be using... Let me locate it. Sorry, I have a lot here. So this one here. So I have a better one somewhere here. Unfortunately, I didn't have an upper right, so my hands were tied here. But when your HP falls below 35%, damage immunity is increased by 7.15%. Honestly, after dying so many times, I should have just put this in. I should have, but I didn't because I was distracted by the dragon. It was very, very stressful in there. I would strongly recommend this because this will stop you, or not necessarily stop, but make it much more difficult to die because, you know, you have your static damage reduction from the omni, plus you get more HP, your damage immunity goes up as your HP goes down. So it makes it a little hard to burst you. This is definitely something I should have replaced, but I didn't want to give up the resonance and the omni. I was being a little bit stubborn. Over here, we have... So this one gives you, you know, attack and defense. It's not bad, but it's got nothing on the other one. High energy potion. So high energy potion, I have a better one for this as well, but unfortunately, I wanted the resonance. I needed the resonance so I could use it more times in battle as a defensive because the fight was just that rough. Basically what this does is it gives me 5% damage immunity increase for 15 seconds every 30 seconds. So literally half the time, I have an extra 5% damage immunity. Really, really good. It gets more powerful if you have +1 emblem slots as well. And then I went up to left and right to grab the specialization effect. It's important to note that the first skill point you put into each of these nodes is more powerful than the second. So, for example, if I put one more point into here... Okay, I can't do it in the battle, so let's move back real quick. Plus 3%, right? Now, if I take away both of them, and put the first point back in, plus 6%. So the first point you put in is more powerful. That's why a lot of people will run across the board to get their points really quick. I personally think that level 3 core worked quite well, because I was able to control it and get the extra glancing. I just don't have enough points to go for core 2 as nice it would have. And core 3, 30% chance of getting Inscribed Stone Energy and recover HP. The recover HP is negligible, 2%. Too slow. It's too slow. The dragon will kill you way before that procs or does anything. And a 30% chance to get resonance when I've already got stacked resonance to guarantee that I'm going to get it every minute anyway. Completely pointless. Don't need it. Okay, so that covers the inscription part of the guide. So in today's guide, I showed you the omni build, how it worked, and you know the potions and abusing the omni. I talked about the stats. I talked about 2 different talent builds, and I've gone through the inscribed tree I used for the dragon. It's really crucial to note that I'm not telling you to just copy this tree, right? You can't. Well, you may be able to, but you need to adapt it to each of your battles, right? Like this is generally right for where I'm at for the dragon. So you can use it as a bit of a template, but just keep in mind that you need to adapt it based upon how many points you have, how many emblems you have, and stuff like that. Like, I change my inscription tree daily. Every single day. I'm spending hours min-maxing for every challenge raid and taking out dust, putting it in, and stuff like that. So just before we end, I just want to do a final mention that the spreadsheet will exist. Please, I am begging you, if you have questions, look at the spreadsheet first. I will write out a lot of information so you can look at it and absorb the information. I'm trying to teach you how to play the class so you can adapt to your own fights and be the best tank you can be, rather than give you a cookie cutter build that will work for one fight and then you'll have to keep coming back and asking me how to change to every fight, right? I'm trying to teach you and guide you, make you a better tank rather than make you a mediocre tank. Please look at the spreadsheet. If you've watched to this point, you know, I thank you very much for watching the entire guide. I do appreciate people's support. You know, it's really great to be able to create content for people, and I'm having a lot of fun playing Tarisland, so I hope you found the content enjoyable and helpful for you in your tanking. Thanks for watching.